This conference will now be recorded.
Morning, guys. We'll start.
Morning, sir.
Yeah, we'll start. So now supplemental qualifiers. So we have seen yesterday we have different types supplemental qualifier data sets, relate records, correct? So supplemental qualifiers in which case we do. Okay, right. So supplemental qualifiers you can see, right? So availability of non-SDTM standard data. I told you, right? So if you have any non-standard variable, so that non-standard variable will go to supplemental qualifier data set, correct? Uh, uh, Next, any data set in which SDTM variable has text value exceeding the length of 200 character limit. Text value is split such that 1 to 200 characters in parent domain and greater than 200 characters will go into supplemental qualifier domain. Okay, 1 to 200 will store in parent domain. Greater than 200, any text which has greater than 200, it will go to supplemental qualifier domain. Okay, right. So only exception in this case is TI domain. So in TI domain for IE test, you can have greater than 200. So at greater than 200 will go to, metadata in, and it will be linked to define.xml. Define.xml is a complete package which we submit to regulatory authority, right? Okay, anything greater than 200 will go to metadata and it will be linked to define.xml, right? RelRec. So this is about supplemental qualifiers, and the next one, RelRec, in which case we consider, or which we will, in which case we create this RelRec records. RelRec records is created only as per sponsor's request. If your sponsor is requesting, in that case only we create this relate records. Information collected about between concomitant medication and adverse event for a subject, if you wanted to see so which concomitant medication, how it is working, so then in that case I can use RelRec. I can combine CM data with AE data, and any information which has a link between multiple data sets and has a scientific rationale behind the link. So if you wanted to draw some meaningful scientific conclusion from two or more data sets, in that case, we will combine these data sets. We will combine these data sets. Right. So is this clear? RelRec, when to create? Only on sponsor's request. In general, we will not do. If sponsor, he or she wants to see some information, then only in that case only we do that. Otherwise, not required. Next, sponsor defined or custom domain. So whenever we are creating domains, so in general there are almost all 32 to 37 domains are there. Okay, 35 around plus or minus 2 domains are there. Okay, right. So suppose to say I'm creating a domain which does not exist. With this name, I don't have a domain. So in this case, sponsor can write their own domain name. For example, DV protocol deviations, DS disposition, AE adverse events, CM concomitant medication, MH medical history, LV laboratory, PK pharmacokinetic parameters, PP pharmacokinetic parameters, PC pharmacokinetic concentrations. Correct. So likewise, we have domain names for few domains. There are other domains which we don't have names. These names are not standardized. So in this case, sponsor can, write his own name. Okay. So any name you write, it should have only two characters. That is first point. We all know, right? In SDTMs, we in SDTMs, all your domain names should not exceed more than two characters, right? So now, if suppose to say, if you are creating a new domain which is talking about some medicinal product, you have to write X before. After that, one character you can give your name. If suppose to say I'm creating a domain which is talking about some medicinal product, so in that case I have to write first letter X. After that, next character you can write anything. Suppose to say if you are creating a domain which is talking about some events, in that case we have to write Y before, and after that one character, it is your choice. Suppose to say if you are creating a new domain based on findings, so this domain is related to findings, then you write Z before, after that one character, it is your choice, right? So according to the categories, you have to write first letter X, Y, Z, and after that one character you can write of your choice. Suppose to say if you are doing any kind of assessment data, and these assessment are related to findings, so the data set name can be written as ZA. Z is for findings, A is the one character which your sponsor has defined. So these are called custom defined or sponsor defined data sets. Okay, right. So far these are all the different types of domains we have. Okay, different types of classification you see, right? So interventions, events, findings about special purpose domains, trial design domains, supplemental qualifier, rel-rec. Now custom defined or sponsor defined. Custom or sponsor defined. Now, these are all the standard data sets we have in SDTM implementation guide. So first of all, I will ask you to read this abbreviation, DS, disposition, DM, demographics. First of all, ఇవన్నీ చదవండి. First of all, read all this. You are done?
Yes, sir.
Right. So now, first one, DM, demographics, special purpose domains. One record per subject. Underline this point, in DM, one subject will contain only one record. In DM, one subject will contain only one record. So the important key variables are study ID, use subject ID. These are the important variables in this domain. These are key variables. So for all the domains, study ID, use subject ID are very important. And these are very common for all the domains. CO, comments, special purpose domain, one record per comment per subject. Suppose to say I have noticed subject number one got rash on his skin, he has an injury on his knee. So each and every comment will be considered as a separate record. So one subject, if we have two comments, we get two records for that subject. You got the point? This is how the data structure is. So whenever you are creating this data set, this is how the data structure will be. One record per comment per subject. And you can see here study ID, use subject ID, and COSEQ. CO stands for comment, SEQ stands for sequence. Comments sequence. And SE
Shifting.
is subject elements. Subject elements is special purpose domain. One record per actual element per subject. So subject supposed to say he is a screening element, he is a baseline element, he is a treatment element. So likewise, each and every element will be considered as a separate visit. And the important variables, you see right everywhere, study ID, use subject ID, I told important, right? These are commonly important in all the data sets, domains. And if you see apart from this, you have two variables, ETCD. ETCD stands for element code. ETCD stands for element code. And SESTDTC. SESTDTC is subject element start date time character. Subject element start date time character. STDTC start DT date time C character. In SDTMs, we have to read date values as character data type only. In SDTM, whenever you are reading date values, date time values, we should read them as character data type only. Next, SV, subject visits. Each and every visit will be considered as a separate record. Suppose to say subject has come to my CRO for 10 times. So subject will get 10 records. Subject 2 has come 3 times. He will get 3 records. So each and every visit will be considered as a separate record. And the important variable here is visit num. CM, concomitant medications. So you see, right, you can see class also, special purpose domain interventions. You see the class also, right? Because I already covered, I'm explaining the data structure now. CM, one record per recorded medication occurrence or constant dosing interval per subject. Suppose to say subject number 1 has taken drug from 1st Jan to 5th Jan, twice daily. So dosing frequency is twice daily. Twice daily is bid. Bid kada? Bid means
Twice daily. BID.
twice daily, right? Bliss in dia,
Yes,
bliss in die, correct? The
yes,
German
sir.
word, Greek word,
Greek.
Latin word.
ఏమో
Greek
Hmm?
సార్
words.
BID అయితే twice daily.
అంతే కదా. కతే జర్మన్ వర్డ్ లాటిన్ వర్డ్ నాకు తెలియదు. బిఐడి
Greek
అంటే
word, sir.
గ్రీక్ వర్డ్ అది. ఓకే, ఏ
అవును
వర్డ్
సార్.
అయితే మనకి ఏముందిలే. బిడ్ ఇస్ ట్వైస్ డైలీ, రైట్? So that we will have. So if you have constant dosing, or you have individual, so first Jan you have taken, second Jan he has taken, fourth Jan he has taken. Okay, so likewise we can have, right? Next, this is CM. Okay, concomitant medication. CMTRT is concomitant medication treatment. What is a concomitant medication we have used, and start date time, right? EX, exposure interventions, one record per constant dosing interval per subject. EXTRT is exposure treatment, your investigational product, placebo, what are the treatment you have taken. So that you will write it in EXTRT. This is important. And exposure start date time, right? SU, substance used intervention, one record per substance type per reported occurrence per subject. SUTRT is substance used treatment, and SUSTDTC, substance start date time, substance use start date time. Suppose to say I am preparing my investigational product. Suppose to say diclofenac paracetamol. Diclofenac is one substance, paracetamol is another substance, right? So here you will have two records for this subject, for this substance used. Now AE, adverse event, one record per adverse event per subject. So each and every adverse event will consider as a separate record. AE code is dictionary derived code for your adverse event. So dictionary derived code, I told you, right? We have MEDRA. MEDRA stands for
Medical.
Medical Dictionary for Regulatory Activities, right? So as per your MEDRA, we will have scientific term, medical term for each and every adverse event. So that information will store in AE code. This is important. And start date time of your adverse event. DS, disposition, one record per disposition status or protocol milestone per subject. You see, right? DS decode. So disposition decode. And DSSTDTC. DSSTDTC is disposition start date time. And MH is medical history. So one record per medical history event per subject. So study ID, U subject ID, MH decode, medical dictionary derived code. DV, protocol deviations. Each and every deviation will be considered as a separate record. Suppose to say, in my study, subject should not smoke, subject should not drink. Okay, right. So subject has smoked, subject has drinked. So he has violated rule 1, rule 2, two deviations. So we get to two records for that subject. Each and every deviation you need to consider as a separate record. And the important variables are DV term, deviation term. So what is the deviation, what deviation the subject has happened. So subject has smoked, it is deviation term. And DVST deviation start date time character. And CE, clinical events, one record per event per subject. So each and every record we need to consider as a, each and every record per event we need to consider as a separate record. CE, clinical events, CE term, CESTDTC. You can see here CESTDTC. And EG is ECG test results. So these are all findings, right? So these are all findings, right? And if you are doing any assessment and if you are getting result, it will belong to findings domain. So one record per ECG observation per time point per visit. Underline this point. Per time point per visit will be common for all the domains, all the domains that comes under findings classification. Per time point per visit per subject. So each and every time point, each and every visit, and each and every subject. One record per ECG observation, per time point, per visit, per subject. You see, right? Study ID, use subject ID, EG test CD, visit num, EG TPT ref time point reference, EG TPT num time point number. So time point references are also important in this. So whenever I explain this findings domain, it will be clear what is TPT ref and TPT num. Time point number. So EG test CD, electrocardiogram test in short name. EG test CD is electrocardiogram test in short name. CD always stands for short name. And IE, inclusion exclusion criteria not met. Subjects who are screen failures, all that data will come into IE, inclusion exclusion criteria not met. So suppose this is subject number 1 has not met 2 criteria. For that subject you have 2 records. Right. So one record per inclusion exclusion criteria not met per subject. So you see, right? Use subject ID, IE test CD, inclusion exclusion criteria test in short name. LB, laboratory test results. One record per analyte per planned time point number, time point reference per visit per subject. So whenever you are doing some tests, this test results you may find in more than one analyte. Okay, analyte 1, analyte 2, it can happen, or analyte, it can have metabolite. Name work చేసిన study. Clarithromycin. Clarithromycin is a drug I worked on. So when I worked on BioCleanse trials, I worked on clarithromycin drug. Whenever we are giving this drug into human body, so this drug after absorbed into blood, this drug will be available in two forms. One is clarithromycin, second one is 14 hydroxy clarithromycin. ఈ డ్రగ్ అనేది మనకి టూ ఫార్మ్స్ లో ఎవాల్యుయేట్ అవుతుంది, మనకి అవైలబుల్ అవుతుంది. సో one is clarithromycin, second one is 14 hydroxy clarithromycin. So that is called metabolite, analyte, metabolite. Few cases you will have two analytes. తెలుసు కదా, you guys know this, yes or no? So we have to
Sure.
check bioavailability of both the forms. Okay, one drug is available in two different forms, we have to check availability of two forms. So in this case, in your laboratory test also, if you have two metabolites, one analyte, one metabolite, or two analytes, each and every analyte with respect to time point is before giving drug, after giving drug, with respect to visit, with respect to subject. So you may get multiple records in laboratory. Laboratory data set is a very huge data among all the domains. Okay, laboratory data set will be very huge. If your DM is 1 MB, laboratory data set will be 10 MB. Anta pedda data set. Lab data set will be biggest data set among all the data sets. Among all the domains, lab data will be very big and huge. Okay, and PE, physical examination. One record per body system or abnormality per visit per subject. Okay, abnormality per visit per subject. If you are finding any abnormal values with respect to each and every body system organ class, we write as a separate record. So the important variables are PE test CD, physical examination test in short name, and visit number. QS, questionnaires. Each and every question will be considered as a separate record. Okay, one record per questionnaire, per question, per time point, per visit, per subject. You see, right? Time point, visit, subject are common in all the findings domain. You see it, right? Right. The important variables are QS cat. Cat is category, right? Category of your questionnaire. QS test CD, questionnaires test. CD, short name, test in short name. Visit number, QS TPT time point reference, with respect to which time point reference we have collected this data. And TPT num, time point number. Next, SC, subject characteristics, one record per characteristic per subject. Each and every characteristic you'll consider as a separate record. SC tested is the short name. And VS, vital signs, one record per vital sign measurements per time point per visit per subject. So VS test CD, visit num, VS TPT ref, VS TPT num. Okay. Right. DA, drug accountability, one record per drug accountability finding per subject. So DA test CD, DA DTC. And MB, one record per microbiology specimen finding per time point, per visit, per subject. So MB TPT ref, MB TPT num. MS, microbiology susceptibility test. So one record per microbiology susceptibility test or organism related to finding per organism. So each and every organism, okay, each and every organism will be considered as a separate record. So MS we will not create anywhere. I have not created MSMB. So in my studies, I have never used these domains. But in your studies, if you come across, you have to create. And test CD, visit num, time point reference, time point number. These are important variables. And PC, pharmacokinetic concentrations. One record per analyte, per planned time point number, time point reference, per visit, per subject. Each and every analyte, you need to consider all this. Time point reference, number, visit, subject, etc. The important variables are PC test CD, visit num, time point reference, and time point number. Okay, right. PP, pharmacokinetic parameters. One record per pharmacokinetic parameter, per time concentration profile, per modeling method, per subject. Study ID, U subject ID, PP test CD, PP cat, visit num, and PP TPT ref. These are all your time point reference. These are all your pharmacokinetic parameters. Right. PKPD modeling కి ఒక మెథడ్ ఉంటుంది. So each and every method you need to consider as a separate records. FA, findings about events or interventions. FA domain, I already told you, right? If you're drawing some conclusion based on interventions and events, so we need to consider it as FA. FA domain is you are getting some result from interventions or events domain, right? Next, one record per finding per object per time point. FAOBJ is the important variable. So each and every object, time point, reference, visit, subject you get. So FA test CD. FA test CD is findings about test in short name. Okay. And FAOBJ is FA objective. Findings about objective. Visit num, visit number. FATPTRF, time point reference and time point number. Right. These are all your important variables. FA domains we rarely create. Okay. Right. Next, TA, trial arms. So one record per planned element per arm. So each and every treatment will be considered as a separate arm. Each and every element will be considered as a separate arm. So is he right? So TAETORD, trial element order. So what is the order of your elements? We will write it here. And TV, trial visits, one record per planned visit per arm. So here, ఇందాక మీరు SV చూసారు. SV is actual. SV is actual. Supposed to say, as per my protocol, one subject should come 5 times to my clinic. Okay, one subject should come 5 times to my clinic. Out of 5 times is planned. That planned visit information will be present in TV domain. That planned visit information will be present in TV domain. And actuals will be present in SV domain. Actuals will be present in SV domain. So you see SV, SE, PVT, these are linked. T is planned, S is actual. Okay, right. So trial visits, TI, trial inclusion exclusion criteria. As per your protocol, what is your inclusion exclusion criteria? We write it in TI. And what is IE? Not met. Inclusion exclusion criteria not met. Subjects who are not satisfying these inclusion exclusion criteria, that subjects will be considered as a separate domain. It is IE, inclusion exclusion criteria not met. And TS, trial summary. Trial summary is one record per trial summary parameter. One record per trial summary parameter. All that information you will have it in TS domain. So the important variables are TS param CD, TS sequence. Next, RELREC, relate records. One record per related record, group of records or data sets. One record per related record, group of records or data sets. So here you have ID var val, rel ID. And you can also see R domain. In supplemental qualifiers, we have R domain. R domain is related domain. Okay, in RELREC, you have R domain. Okay, right. So ID var value, rel ID. Rel ID is nothing but relate ID. And supplemental qualifiers, you see, right? Supplemental qualifiers, these are the important variables. ID var value, qnum, qlabel, qval. So I already have explained these variables in our earlier session. It is supplemental. You have double hyphen, right? If you are working on DM, if you got non-standard data from DM, you will create it as SUPP DM. If you are getting non-standard data from PE, SUPP PE. If you're getting non-standard data from CM, SUPP CM. Those two hyphens are for your domain names. Is that clear, everyone? Yes or no? These are all the standard domains we have. Okay, right. This primary key, surrogate key not required. You can ignore this. Metadata contents and attributes. Metadata contents and attributes. Right. As per your core classification, so we have three categories as per your core classification. So first one, required. First one is required. First one is required. These variable must be present in the data set. These variable must be present in the data set. These variables must be present in the data set and cannot be null for any record. And cannot be null for any record. Expected. These variables must be present in the data set but can have null value. So in first category, you see, right? So the difference between required and expected, these variables must be present in the data set and cannot be null for any record. These variables must be present in the data set and cannot be null for any record. expected. These variables must be present in the data set but can have a null value. Both the cases, these variables must be present. In first case, it should not have missing values. In second case, it should have missing values. In third case, these variables should be included in the data set appropriately and when data is collected. If you have some data related to this kind of variables, we need to present this variable in the data set. Otherwise, if you don't have any records, if all the records are empty, then you can drop this variable from parent domain. Suppose to say investigator name in demographic data set is a permissible variable. If you are collecting data related to this, we keep this variable in DM domain. If you are not collecting any information, so we can drop this variable from parent domain. Only expected required category variables must be present in your data sets. Got the point? Data set and domain and both are one and the same. So in terms of technical, we call it as a data set. In terms of domain, we call it as a domain. Okay. In terms of clinical trials, we call it as a domain. So domain, data set, both are one and the same. Okay. Right. So we'll stop this here for today. So tomorrow we can complete this. అయితే అయిపోతుందిలే ఉండండి ఇక్కడే ఇంకెంత టైం ఉంది 42 3 minutes ఉంది వద్దులే. So we will finish this on Monday. Okay, right. So again I have to show you all these definitions, derivations, abbreviations. Again I have to make you read this. After that we will have a metadata, origin and other stuff. Okay, so we'll finish it on Monday. Okay, right. Okay, that's all for today. Saturday Sunday కూడా క్లాసెస్ పెట్టుకుందామా చెప్తా నెక్స్ట్ వీక్ నుంచి విల్ సీ. ఓకే రైట్. ఓకే దట్స్ ఆల్ ఫర్ టుడే. నెక్స్ట్ వీక్ కుదరదు, మర్చిపోయాను నేను. నెక్స్ట్ వీక్ నేను ఊరు వెళ్ళాలి. చూద్దాం, గోయింగ్ ఫార్వర్డ్ ఐల్ ప్లాన్. ఓకే రైట్. థ్యాంక్ యూ ఆల్, బై.